Welcome back to Capital Market, showing live on Channels Television. Events to watch in April should be showing right now on the screen. NASD OTC first quarter market review is coming up on 27th of April. And you should also watch out for the Securities and Exchange Commission first CMC meeting. That's the Capital Markets Committee meeting holding on April 19th and 20th right here in Lagos. But the paramount one for us this week is the federal government of Nigeria's Sukuk listing on the Nigerian Stock Exchange and the FMDQ OTC Securities Exchange, all Tuesday, April the 10th, next week. And this brings us to our discussion point this evening. The federal government offered its sovereign Sukuk of 100 billion naira last year, September the 14th through to September the 22nd. And I think on 26th of the same month, the settlement was carried out. But it was oversubscribed to the tune of 105.87 billion naira and subsequently handed over to the Ministry of Power Works and Housing for the construction of federal government roads across the 6 geopolitical zones of the Federation. Come Tuesday, April the 10th, as I said earlier, the 100 billion naira worth of Sukuk will be listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, followed with facts behind the listing session, and again listed on the FMDQ OTC Securities Exchange. For reasons best known to our analyst here, Ndako Mejintadi, who is the head of investments and research at Lotus Capital. Good evening. Thank you for making it down to the show this evening.
Good evening, Temple.
I appreciate your time. So, walk us through the significance of this listing for you who deal on Sukuk, who also had a lot of investments in this offer late last year.
Thank you. It's a very big development. As you would know, the Sukuk was oversubscribed. We have about 5.87% in excess. What that means is that there are a lot of people who wanted to get into this instrument and were not able to get into it at the time that it was offered.
Because it was also oversubscribed.
Exactly.
And I know the excess was going to be returned to all those.
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. So we have that demand that is already available to come into the market. Once the instrument is listed, the market will be able to pricing that demand as well. And you know, the Sukuk, again, it's a 7-year instrument. There will be people that wouldn't want to stay for that long period because they will have liquidity requirements. Once the Sukuk is listed, those people have the opportunity to also sell down on the Sukuk, you know, and get out of the market. So it's fantastic. For asset managers like ourselves, once it's listed and there's a price that everybody can feed off from the market, it will enable us to have proper valuation for our portfolios. So, I mean, I think it's a fantastic development.
So it's not something that is going to be listed externally eventually. It's just going to be for the domestic market.
For now, it's for the domestic market.
Yeah. Okay, so we know that pension fund banks and asset managers like yourself constituted like 96% of that subscription last year, September, and just 4% of individuals actually invested in it. Will this listing also be for the reasons that in case these retail investors want to exit? Because we don't see these institutional investors like yourself exiting at all.
It's a good question. It's good that we also look at we break down these numbers.
Okay.
You know, so when we say we have retail participation of about 4%, right, of 100 billion, that amounts to about, what, 4 billion? You have an instrument where the minimum subscription was about 10,000 naira. If you put 10,000 in 4 billion, there are hundreds of people, you know, that are holding this instrument. So for the retail participation, you know, there would be a lot of retail participants that are trying to trade on the security. We're looking at hundreds of people.
So in terms of trading, how will the trading pan out? Because this is kind of different from the FGN bonds. These are Sukuks. You're going to have them on the FMDQ OTC. You're going to have them on the NSE trading platform. But what kind of trading will take? Because the terms and references of a Sukuk differs from that of the traditional bonds.
Not necessarily as regards trading. Now, because the Sukuk represents ownership, you know, of tangible assets. So what that means that once you hold a note, you own a valid portion of that asset, and you can trade it like you trade any other security. So say, for instance, a retail participant or any institutional participant, all you have to do is just contact a broker or a dealer, depending on what exchange it is. Let them know that you want to trade on the Sukuk, and they will execute that transaction on your behalf, like any other security.
Okay, now let's look at the fact that what we have currently is the 7-year tenure. It doesn't look like there's going to be a reopening, or is there anything like that in the offing?
I mean, we strongly believe that there should be additional Sukuk being offered in the market, both at the federal level, you know, as well as corporate levels.
So what do we know about what these proceeds were meant to be used for in terms of several roads across the 6 geopolitical
25
zones.
Actually.
25?
Yeah,
25 specific highways in Nigeria. How much do we know about the construction at the moment?
Construction is going on, it's in progress. The Sukuk has a trustee, a joint trustees actually, STL trustees, as well as FBN trustees, who have a project management consultant that oversees the construction of the roads, working very close, hand in hand actually, with the Federal Ministry of Power Works and Housing. So the roads are currently in progress.
Okay, let's look at the fact that you have to trade on it. Who are the qualified traders that we have? I mean, do they have to... because it's different actually, and it's the very first of its type, a sovereign Sukuk in Nigeria. Do we really have traders who will really be trading? Is it the treasurers from the same banks that we have who are trading on the
same ecosystem? So the non-interest debt capital market worked within the same ecosystem, you know, as the regular capital market. So your regular brokers, your regular treasurers, dealers on the exchanges, everybody, you know, can trade on the instrument.
And if I'm interested in buying the Sukuk today,
call me, you know, and we'll hook you up.
Just like that?
Yeah.
You could speak to stockbrokers on the NSE as well?
Yes.
But what do we know about the details in terms of the coupon rates, the yields, and the tenor, of course, is 7 years.
Good question. So when it was issued at 16.47%. That's the rental rate. You know, the yield environment, you know, has started coming down. You know, so for those people that want to actually trade, they'll be making a price gain. Currently, I think yields on 7-year instruments is somewhere in the region of about 13.7%, thereabout. You know, so that's pretty much what pricing is like now.
Okay, so let's find out from you. What are your expectations in terms of benefits, in terms of, you know, extending the ecosystem for Sukuk in Nigeria? What are your expectations in terms of this offer, Sukuk offer, consistently in Nigeria going forward?
I think the FG and Sukuk has demonstrated, you know, the effectiveness of this instrument specifically for infrastructure development. And I think because of that, we expect to see a lot more issuers on the corporate side specifically, you know, who have real estate projects, you know, and things like that, expansion projects, who want to acquire equipment, you know, trying to tap into the Sukuk market. The oversubscription level is also very encouraging, you know, and then the diversity in the amount of retail participation as well as institutional participation. The likes of ourselves, asset managers, who you know, because of our investment philosophy, participate only in the Sukuk type market. You know, people want to tap into the kind of assets that we manage, right? You know, so I think because of that, what the Sukuk has demonstrated is that this market is effective, you know, and we're likely to see more issuers, you know, coming.
So what's the space been like so far this year, 2018? I mean, Q1 has just ended. What has been the Islamic finance space like generally?
There's been a lot of awareness going on. You mentioned earlier on that it's kind of like a new instrument. Some people are learning, and because of the success story of the Sukuk, it has generated a lot of interest. We've been receiving a lot of calls, you know, and interest, wanting to understand the instrument and what else is coming out there. So I mean, within the next 6 months, we should begin to see, you know, that taking fruit.
And are there initiatives board investors clinic that your likes are putting together to, you know, spread awareness about it, because it's not limited to Muslims alone?
Very, very true. Just only last week, there was 2 weeks ago actually, there was a forum, brought a lot of participants, including the Islamic Development Bank, to educate people, you know, about non-interest instruments, you know, in the Nigerian capital market, and we were also, you know, at that forum.
So the Nigerian market looks like we have a lot of potentials for non-interest financing, because recently 3 banks or 4 banks actually signed
That's
up.
the forum I was talking about.
Exactly. So what are the prospects that we have right here in the domestic market?
So, you know, from that event, what we saw was conventional banks, you know, also participating.
Wema Bank or Jaiz Bank,
exactly.
SunTrust Bank.
SunTrust as well. You know, participating, you know, and it's good because it tells us that, you know, there's recognition, you know, of this market, both from the conventional space, from the regulators, from the government, you know, from foreign investors. As you understand, foreign investor participation, you know, just recently started gaining a lot of traction. It tells your macro environment is stable, you know, and things like that. And you have foreign investors that are now looking at that Islamic finance space. Right. You know, so I mean, in terms of expected development, we expect it to be broad-based, cover both the banking sector as well as the capital market sector.
Thank you very much, Ndako Mijindadi, for making it down to capital market. We appreciate your analysis right here. And Ndakumejinda is the head of investments and research at Lotus Capital. And on that note, it's time for us to wrap up the show. Thank you for being a part of it. I'm Temple Ashaju. I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.